On today's lesson, we're going to be exploring the mysteries of the Dorian mode using the super easy shape that you gotta know. Hey there kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. You can call the Dorian mode the second mode of the major scale, or you can call it the minor scale with a raised 6. Whatever you do, just don't call it late for dinner. However you choose to think about it, it's a really super handy scale to have to add a little bit of flair into your blues jams and minor scale excursions. And on today's lesson, I'm going to be showing you guys the way that I got started using the Dorian scale by incorporating it into something that I already knew inside and out, and how I later began strategizing my use of that scale to create blazing fast licks like the one you heard in the intro. But before we deep dive into it, let's hear that hot lick again at stepdad speed. As always, free tabs and charts are available for this lesson over on my Instagram page at Ben Eller Guitars. Just search for hashtag WeekendWankShop263, find the tabs and start playing along. Downloadable tabs, backing tracks, bonus lessons, and so much more are available to everybody who supports my channel over on my Patreon page at patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. This week I'm also going to be uploading a special Patreon-only bonus lesson showing a couple of my other favorite positions that I use to play the Dorian scale. That bonus lesson and a bunch more are available to everybody who supports me over on Patreon, even at the $1 a month level, so be sure to click the link in the video description below and check out that Patreon page today. Thanks! So the Dorian mode is a really useful one that you can use no matter what kind of music that you're playing, whether that be jazz or blues or blaz or fusion or whatever. Some people say that it sounds like a slightly more optimistic minor scale. Some people associate it with the gypsy jazz sounds of guys like Django Reinhardt. Myself, I think it sounds like the noise that it makes whenever the bubbles pop in Santana's bathwater. In all of today's examples and licks, I'm going to be using B as the root note. Now there's a couple different ways I could look at a B Dorian scale. You could say that it's essentially just the A major scale starting on the second note. So the A major scale is A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. It's just the A major scale starting on the second note instead. Another way that some people prefer to look at the Dorian scale is it's just like a B minor scale with one slight tweak. So a B minor scale would be like this. The first note's B, second note C sharp, third note's D, then we got E, F sharp, G, A, B. That's the B minor scale. Now some people like to think of the B Dorian scale as being just like that B minor, only with the sixth note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the G note in this case, being raised up 1/2 step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. That raised 6 is what makes it sound Dorian. Either way, what you need to know is that you can use your B Dorian scale against B minor chords because the B Dorian scale generates the notes and intervals that are in a B minor chord. If that's not clear enough, just take a look at your B minor chord, any B minor chord that you know, and you'll notice that it's just the notes B, D, and F sharp over and over. B, F sharp, B, D, F sharp. B, F sharp, B, D, F sharp, B. It's just those three notes. And those three notes are inside of our B Dorian scale. B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, and so on. Everything we need to make that chord is right there in the scale. You guys might remember from a second ago that we talked about how the Dorian scale has that cool raised 6 in it, right? That one. That makes it sound different than a regular minor scale with its flat 6. This gives the Dorian scale a special property to be used against minor chords that contain a natural 6, or 13 as you'll sometimes hear it called. This right here is a B minor chord, B, D, F sharp, but I've also included that special natural 6 right here on the D string, the G sharp note. Some of you guys might think that sounds like a James Bond kind of chord. Some of you guys might associate it with the Latin jazz sounds of like Santana and guys like that. whatever you choose to think of it, whenever you hear that minor with a 6 in it kind of sound, just understand that that is open turf to use your Dorian mode. The first way that I learned how to play a Dorian scale is the way that my original guitar teacher, the legendary Benjamin Franklin of the greater Morristown, Tennessee area, showed me how to play it. And it looked just like this. Even though I didn't really understand the context or the whole like modal nature or anything like that, that was an easy to play shape for me that got my fingers wrapped around it so I could start hearing the sounds of it and use it right away. But I always found it a little bit cumbersome to play through at high speeds without any real trickery because the arrangement of the notes per string is kind of odd. 3 notes, 2 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes. Mainly 3s with one weird 2-note per string shape in there. I made a chart of that pattern and I put it on the wall and I stared at it long enough until I started seeing another pattern that I already recognized hiding right there inside of the scale. If I just take the chart that we already have on screen here and color in a few notes, you're going to recognize what I'm talking about. Hiding right there in that mixed note per string Dorian scale shape that my guitar teacher showed me was just your good old plain Jane minor pentatonic scale. A shape that by now we all surely know and love. So it kind of occurred to me that if this minor pentatonic scale shape was hiding inside of this Dorian mode, I could easily use my familiar, comfortable minor pentatonic licks that I already knew and were familiar with, and every now and then jump outside of that and use one of those so-called Dorian notes to get a little bit more of an interesting sound out of it. It's sort of a cool instant Carlos Santana sound that you get whenever you combine those traditional bluesy 2-note per string pentatonic phrases and then dabble in some of those cool sounding modal Dorian notes whenever you want to. It's a sound you've also heard Joe Bonamassa and Eric Johnson use to great extent. And that's how I would use the Dorian scale for a really long time. Anytime I was playing over a B minor or B minor 6 kind of sound, or the 2 chord of the key for you theory guys out there, I would simply use the minor pentatonic scale, the B minor pentatonic, and spice things up by using some of those Dorian notes anytime I wanted a dash of something different. But a couple of years ago, I started re-strategizing my fast alternate picked licks to suit my strengths, namely downward pick slanting and playing even numbers of notes per string. Whenever I play a 2, 4, 6, 8, any even number on a string, it means I'm going to be starting with the downstroke and leaving that string on an upstroke, which for me is just naturally easier to do. And it was when I started understanding that whenever I'm trying to play fast alternate picked licks, the even number thing just works out better for me than the odd numbers. It started really changing my perspective on how I can use this blend of minor pentatonic and Dorian scales. Okay, so the minor pentatonic scale is naturally 2 notes per string, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So playing through that is always pretty easy for me because that means it's going to be starting on a down, ending on an up every string. But the problems would arise for me whenever I was trying to alternate pick through a minor pentatonic lick and change directions, go from ascending to descending or the other way around there. Because whenever you play up and down the 2 notes that are on any string, it gives you a total of 3 notes, which means the picking flips, down, up, down. I'm sure you guys have experienced this before where you play down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, then down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Suddenly the picking is way more awkward because we played an odd number of notes on that high E string. So what I started doing is taking that 2 note per string minor pentatonic scale and rearranging the notes of some of those 3 note per string patterns that are in the Dorian scale, like this, and strategically rearranging those 3 notes per string to serve as sort of turnarounds that I can use whenever I'm blending the Dorian and pentatonic scales. Now let me explain what I mean by strategizing how I would use the 3 note per string patterns. Let's use the 3 notes that are found on the B string in your B Dorian scale to demonstrate this. That's fret 7, 9, and 10, or the F sharp, G sharp, and A notes on your B string. So I saw this as kind of a 3 note per string oasis in the middle of the minor pentatonic scale, right? And if I rearrange those 3 notes into a 4 note grouping, like that. Notice I didn't play the same notes on the way up as I did on the way down. I played the 7, the 10, the 9, then the 7. That turned this 3 note phrase into a 4 note turnaround. And whenever I do that, my picking goes down, up, which means I'm free to change directions. So check this out. Here's the turnaround. Then I'm free to go back down. Notice my picking isn't flipped around now. Down, up, 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 down, up. And that's just one of the ways that you could do that. You could take those 3 notes that are on that string and rearrange them a different way too. Like that. That walked up, then straight back down. That's now a 4-note grouping. I could use that as a little turnaround inside of my Dorian pentatonic madness. And I started looking at all of the 3-note per string groupings in my original Dorian scale pattern that I learned. There is 1. That's just 2, so I don't use that one. There is 1, there's 1, there's 1, there's 1. I started looking at all of those as potential turnarounds for my alternate picking when I'm blazing through that thing at high speeds. It's cool because you get that traditional bluesy phrasing that you usually have in a minor pentatonic scale and the comfort of those 2-note per string patterns, while also using the slightly unpredictable sound of that natural 6 or 9th degree that we find in the Dorian scale, just for some more tone variety. It sounds cool and it makes the fast licks easier to do, so I'm going to call that a win-win. The lick that I played at the first of the video is a perfect example of how you can use some of these 3-note per string Dorian turnarounds inside of your minor pentatonic playing to spice it up and play some easy, fast licks. Okay, so I played this lick by starting off just walking straight up the B minor pentatonic scale. So here on the low E string, I've got to play 7 and 10. Again, this is all going to be alternate picks, starting with the downstroke. 7, 10, A string, 7, 9. Same thing on the next string. Same thing on the next string. And then when we reach the B, this is where we're going to play our first 4-note turnaround. That's the one I showed you a second ago. 7, 10, 9, 7. Again, it's not 7, 9, 10, 9, 7, playing the same notes on the way up and the way down. That sounds kind of lame to me. And also, it doesn't yield the 4-note grouping that makes this easy to pick. So whenever we reach the B string here, just remember, just be sure to play a 4-note grouping like that. After this, I'm going to play down the G string. Again, that turnaround allowed me to change directions and start descending down through the scale. So I'm going to play 9 and 7 on the G. And then when we reach the D string right here, we're going to be using another 3-note per string, 4-note grouping turnaround to change directions and ascend through the scale some more. That's the 4-note turnaround that I used in the lick, but again, you could phrase this any number of other ways. That's 4 notes. That's 4 notes. I don't know, whatever you want to do with it. Just make a 4-note grouping right there to change directions in the scale. But the way I did it is like this. That's the 9, jumping down to the 6, using the same finger to play the 7, and then back to the 9 again. Okay, so it's 9, 6, 7, 9, a 4-note grouping. I suppose you could play it like this, but to me that just feels very not pentatonic, so I don't do it that way. So far you played it with the pentatonic, turn around on the B, turn around on the D. Now we're going to walk through the scale straight through some more right here, just minor pentatonic scale. 7 and 9 on the G, 7 and 10 on the B, and then I'm reaching the high E string here, so why not use the 3 notes that are there in the Dorian scale as a turnaround here too. Okay, so that's 7, 10, 9, 7. Again, I turned these 3 notes into a 4-note turnaround, so now I'm changing directions on the high E string. This allows you to walk down the rest of the scale. B string 10 and 7, G string 9 and 7, and then I ended this by playing the D 9, 7, 9, ending on the root note B. So in summary, this lick is basically all B minor pentatonic, but we're dipping into some of those 3-note per string B Dorian scale fragments to make handy turnarounds that make it simple to change directions in the scale. Pentatonic, turn around on B, turn around on D, turn around on E, and walk it down. Try to get creative with the way that you combine your familiar 2-note per string minor pentatonic scale with these nice little 4-note Dorian turnarounds and see what kind of hot licks you can come up with today. Sky's the limit. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel and ring the bell for notifications every time I put up a new slice of fried gold. If you like what you saw here on this video and want to say thanks and get access to all those bonus lessons I was talking about, be sure to support my channel over on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Well guys, it's been fun as always, but it's about time for me to sit down and start editing this video, so I've got a jet. As for you guys, I recommend you get away from the computer, pick up the guitar, and get to work. Less clicking, more picking. Okay, keep it.